welcome to Kitchen Basics 101, where I teach you the bare bone basics as if you've never cooked a day in your life from the perspective of a mom. My voice is a little bit messed up today, so I have a cough drop in. Much requested. I've been asked at least a dozen times for pork chops. So we're gonna do pork chops one way, and we'll probably do a couple different ways. Super simple, a breaded method, just like you would do a chicken cutlet. So if you've watched me before, you've seen me do a chicken cutlet before. I bought boneless pork chops from Costco. You know how I love me some Costco. And they're very thick. They're thick cut. So for this preparation, because we're going to be frying them quickly, I'm cutting them in half, butterflying them so they're not as thick. Do I always get it perfect? Absolutely not. I am like the world's worst get it perfect. This little band of fat is okay. You can leave it on. Pork is super, super lean. I don't know if you see, the meat has like almost no marbling. So this little piece of fat will help it with flavor, but it doesn't always render out. So if you're very sensitive to fat, trim that piece off. But you're gonna lose some flavor that way, right? So the best way to butterfly is you press down with your hand pretty firmly. You don't want the knife to be anywhere where you can get cut. Go roughly half. I never get it right. If you don't get it right, it's okay. And then you're just gonna work your knife back and forth while you're pressing down until you get to the other side. See, in this one, I jacked it up. I am the king, the queen of jacking it up. Look at how jacked up that one is. I did much better on this one when I wasn't on camera. Let's try again. Put your hand on top. I enter on the fat side because it's the hardest part to cut through. So I tend to like to start there. Now, one way to not screw it up as bad as I just did is to peel up like this as you're coming across. But just always be mindful. It's slippery and you're using a knife and you don't want to cut your hand, okay? So you don't want to ever have the knife in a position where it can cut you. There we go. I did better on that one, but still not perfect. But that's okay. We're also going to pound them flat afterwards. I might give this one another because I messed it up. Go even thinner on this one, right? But go slow and don't put a lot of pressure, because if it slips and you're putting a lot of pressure, you're going to cut yourself. And that is definitely not the goal, okay? We do not want to cut ourselves. Let's see if I can get one perfect. I can't. But don't worry. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be delicious, okay? Just has to be delicious, not perfect. There we go. That one was better. Right? All right. Let's get these into a plastic bag and pound them flat. Clean hand that I was cutting with, dirty hand that was touching the pork. So step one, go wash your hands. When you're cooking, you should basically be constantly washing your hands, okay? So I have a fork here. You can give them a little like stabby stab if you want to, but we are gonna pound them flat. So you don't have to, but I'm gonna use this fork to transfer them to the baggie so that I don't touch them for the 95th time. Okay, so I'm just giving them a little, all of this is just to try to tenderize the meat. Pork, if it's overcooked, can tend to be a little tough. So everything you can do to tenderize is good, right? We want to keep them nice and moist as well. And we're going to check our meat thermometer to see what internal temperature we want. If you are new to cooking, I definitely think you should invest in a meat thermometer. You can get one for $10, $20 on Amazon. I have one listed just for ease, but you can use whatever one you want. A meat thermometer will just help ease your fears because you're going to be afraid that it's undercooked and you want it to be tender, so you don't want to overcook. And a meat thermometer is just a great way. You check the center of the meat. If it's the right temperature, then you know it's safe to eat. Okay? So I'm going to put a couple of them, as many as I can fit flat, into a freezer bag. And I'm going to show you. And that's just to keep the stuff from splattering when we pound it. But we're going to pound them out and make them thinner so they'll cook up nice and quick. The meat mallet for tenderizing, we're not going to use the spiky part because it would break our bag. We're going to use the flat part of our hammer. If you don't have this, don't worry. You can use a wine bottle. You could use a rolling pin. You could use a pan. You can use anything that you can get a good whack in, okay? Be careful not to whack your fingers. Be careful not to wreck your counters. Be gentle. You don't have to be crazy. Trust me, let the hammer do the work. So you're just going to try to flatten them out to a little bit less than they are. This is, again, just going to help tenderize the meat. That's also going to make them thinner, which is going to make them cook up quicker and stay nice and tender. Flipping over, and I'm hitting them on the back side. Okay, so I pounded them on the front side, and I flipped them over, and I pound them on the back side. I'm going to set up a basic breading station. So I'm just going to beat 2 eggs, 3 eggs, depends on how many chops you're making. All you need is enough liquid to cover the chops. So I'll start with a couple of eggs, and I'll do more if I need more. And then I'm going to do breadcrumbs. So I like 4C breadcrumbs, the seasoned breadcrumbs. But you could use regular breadcrumbs and season them yourself with some Parmesan cheese and some salt and pepper and maybe Italian seasoning. But I use the 4C breadcrumbs, which are already seasoned breadcrumbs. And I'm going to add just a little bit of extra Parmesan to the 4C breadcrumbs, just for a little extra oomph, a little extra flavor, right? I'm just going to mix that in with my breadcrumb. My pork chops are in the egg. I'm just going to shake off the excess. I'm going to put them into the breadcrumb, press it down, flip it over, press it down. All we want to do is get a nice bit of breadcrumb on there. Okay. Beautiful. Shake off the excess. And then we're just going to put it on a tray to let it rest for a second, and we'll get them all breaded up, and then we'll go to frying them. Okay. So again, we're just going to take our pork chop out of the egg. We're going to drip off the excess because we don't want a whole bunch of extra egg. You're going to drop it into your breadcrumbs. Cover it. Try not to get your hand dirty. Pat it down. Get it on there really well. Then you're going to flip it over. Do it again on the other side. Dust off the excess. Set them aside. And just repeat that for however many chops you have. Me personally, I like a combination of olive oil and butter. Butter gives great flavor, but then the olive oil helps protect the butter from burning. So I've combined that. I've got this big skillet on medium heat. It's bubbling. We know it's pretty hot. Now it's time to put them in. I don't want to crowd the pan, so I'm probably only going to be able to do maybe 3 at a time in here. After about 4 minutes, we're going to check them. Beautiful. We're going to flip them over. And we're going to do another 3 to 4 minutes on the other side. Okay, we're looking for an internal 160 to 165. We're there. When they come out and they're hot, you're going to give them a little sprinkling of salt on both sides. You know it's the most important part. Don't mind the sizzle of them cooking in the background. Looks good. Be juicier maybe. Delicious. Fantastic. Great salty bite. Still nice and tender. Not very juicy, but not dry at all. Just nice and tender. Delicious salty bite on the outside. I'd say success.